All right, everyone. I'm here with Deb Weisgerber.
Nailed it.
Yep. The first time.
Yeah.
So I was super excited to have you on because when I think of an entrepreneur, I think of you because a lot of people, they can start up a business, they can do it. It's one thing. And then they kind of either give up or they sell or they get old or whatever, and then it's done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think an entrepreneur in like the truest meaning of the word is being able to really do anything. And you've been able to kind of make a gold mine out of, or a mini gold mine, at least at the time, of anything that you've tried.
Mm-hmm.
So should we take our shot now before we get going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I brought Ciroc for us because that's my vodka. Everybody knows.
Yes. This wine is good.
And I get so like nervous talking about things. Well,
Yeah.
I just get nervous whenever I know that people are going to listen to it and
Oh, yeah.
judge me. But,
Me
you know,
too.
there's
It's
the 4 whole people that are going to listen to this.
No, it's going to be hundreds. Okay, I don't want to make you nervous, but
Well,
let's do it. Yep. Cheers.
Chase it with wine.
I'm chasing mine with wine.
It's smooth. You don't need a chaser.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to be messed up now. All right. Whew. So, now that we are chillaxed,
And
let's
thanks
get
for
into
having
it.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to have you. This is a great story. So, how did you get started? Because I remember you telling me, and you just reminded me that you started your entrepreneurial journey in your basement in your house.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So, I guess I should start with, I was homeschooled my whole life. That's where I always start my story until my senior year. And I went to school my senior year, and my experience up till then was my mom telling me, like, you can do anything. It was always just figure it out. You can do anything. And so I didn't know that, like, I didn't know any other way. I just knew figure it out. And then my dad has this, like, insane work ethic, and he would take me to work with him. And
What did he do?
He did, he worked in kitchens, like, he worked at a college, and he would make all their, like, lunches and buffets and stuff. So I'd go there, and I would, like, peel potatoes or make cookies and do, like, the banquets and serve the banquets. So I learned from, like, a really young age how to work hard, and then I, like, almost glorified it. I was like, if you work hard, you're, like, the coolest. And so
you are.
Thanks. Between working really hard and, like, knowing that, like, I have no boundaries, like, I can do anything if I can figure it out. I think that's what, at a really young age, I was fearless. And I have a lot of fear now, a lot more than I did when I was young because of failures. But I was working, like, a minimum wage job and at a coffee shop, and it was a little drive-through, and I wanted to do something with my life. I didn't know, and somebody mentioned in the drive-through, like, you should buy a house. I thought, I can't buy a house. I'm 18. And they were like, yeah, you can. You totally can. And so I drove by a house, and I called the lady on the sign, and she was like, yeah, you can buy a house. This is before, like, the whole crash. This was in 2004.
Whoa, you were 18?
I was 19.
Okay.
18. Yeah. I was born in 83.
Guess how old we are. No, I'm just kidding.
So I bought a house, and I figured that out, and that was easy. I thought, oh, that was easy. And then I was working at a restaurant, and I had this terrible boss, and I thought, I don't want to have a boss. I've always had, like, a problem with authority. And I don't know why, but even still, like, I don't want to have a regular job with somebody telling me what to do.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll just make my own business, and, like, what do I have? And I don't know how it exactly came about, but I had this huge basement that I wasn't using, and it was a finished basement, and I thought, I'll just make, like, sandwiches. I can make sandwiches and deliver them to people. And so I started this business called Sandwiches to Go, and I actually got licensed by the health department. I was the first like, residential commercial kitchen.
Yeah, how did you do that? Because you have to have commercial equipment, right?
Yeah. So I called the health department and told them what I want to do, and they were like, you can't do that. You have to have commercial equipment. And so I said, all right, well, what if I get commercial equipment? And they said, well, we've never done a license like that. And I said, okay, well, what if I do everything just like a restaurant and it's not open to the public? Will you let me do that? And so they did. And I was the first one that they granted a license to. So I started going to all the businesses like around town and giving them this menu. And I had a fax machine because it was 2004.
Yeah.
And so I told them, like, fax me your order the night before or before 10 a.m. and I will deliver like sandwiches to your office. Well, I got really, really busy. I hired an employee, and then I had no idea what to do, like, as far as business goes. Mm-hmm. And so, like, L&I or Employment Security sent me something in the mail saying, like, you have an employee, like, that you're not claiming. And I thought, what does this mean? So
I'm going to jail.
Yeah. So I ended up, like, closing. I got scared. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know, like, this existed. And I got too busy. Like, I outgrew my basement really quickly. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of got the taste for business then. Mm-hmm. And I knew that it was a little more complicated than what I had thought. Mm-hmm. And so then me and my husband meet, and I'm pregnant with our first baby. And this is fast forward to 2006, 2007. And he comes up to me and he's like, I found a coffee shop on Craigslist. I think we should buy it. And I thought, well, it was like $30,000. That's
what I was going to ask. Yeah. How much was it?
$30,000. Yeah.
Back then it was like $20,000, easy.
And I was like, we don't have $30,000. And he's like, well, we'll just get a business loan, a small business loan. Pardon me. That's a lot of talking for me.
Here, I'll do this. Yeah.
So I go to the bank. I walk in the bank. And I said, how do I get a small business loan? And they said, oh, we need a business plan. And I didn't know what that was.
It's like the dreadful. It's like, what?
Yeah. And on your last podcast, you were talking about a business plan. Yeah. Was it Freddie?
Yes.
How he came up and asked you for a business plan.
Yes. And I almost crapped my pants.
Yeah. And you're like, what is a business plan? How do I do it? Mm-hmm. So how did you figure it out?
Google.
That's what I did.
Google had a lot of good templates, but you know, like with coffee stands, because like it was such a small industry back then, I had to take like different ones that I saw that I knew applied to the business since I was already in it. Yeah. So I don't really know how I would do it now. I think it'd probably be a lot easier now, actually, because there's a lot of stats out there now. Yeah,
that's funny because we did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I feel like our journey has been a lot alike, like through business, and we are a lot alike. So we've like structured it the same.
Yes.
And that's why I keep trying to get you into real estate.
I know. No, I 100% agree. Like when I first met you, I was like, oh my gosh, this chick, we're so much alike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, you look alike too.
I know.
We're both Virgos.
No, I'm a Capricorn, but we're both earth signs.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. When's your birthday?
January 17th.
Okay. For some reason, I thought we had the same birthday.
I don't know. I always think all the cool people are Capricorns.
Funny.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me ask you a couple of questions really quick, because I know that people always think about this barrier to entry. Like, how did you buy a house? Did you do like an FHA? Because people think that they need a lot more money to buy a house than they do. They're like, oh, I can't buy a house because I need 20% down. And then, you know, how did you end up getting the coffee stand? Did you qualify for the small business loan? Oh, also, how did you buy the commercial equipment? How did you come up with the money for that?
I think I put it on credit cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go,
I think I got like credit toward at a commercial, like the commercial, what's that local place? Like, it's over on like Trent or something. Like,
Spokane Restaurant Equipment.
Something like, yeah.
Yeah. See, there's always a way. I think people just say, oh, there's this reason why. And it's like, if you explore things and, you know, credit card debt is typically not good debt. Say if you're buying purses or you're buying, you know, just crap. Yeah. But if you're buying stuff to make you money, if it's going to be a cash flowing business or asset of some kind, well, I don't think credit card debt is bad.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like betting on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah.
And you're a good bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it hasn't always been that way. So with the small business loan, I actually used the house as collateral. So going back to the questions you asked me,
how'd you buy the house? Was that FHA?
FHA, yeah, it was an FHA loan.
So minimal down.
Yeah, it was a small, probably like 3% down.
Yeah.
But I think my mom loaned me like $2,000 or something. $3,000.
Back then when a house was like 80 grand or something, like how much did you buy it for?
I bought it for $105.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we still live there.
Yes. It's cute.
Yeah. It's small.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with barrier to entry,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to go find the answers.
Yes.
And no one's going to give you the answers. And learning the hard way, you have to be willing to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went and did my business plan, I came back with it, and they were like, looks good. We'll loan you the money.
Isn't that crazy when they say
Yeah.
that? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I did it right?
Yeah.
They just want something. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
with a business plan, they just want something. They don't know everything about every industry.
Yeah.
They just want to see that you know something about
Right.
what you're doing.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. So we got the business. It was like a 5-year loan.
Mm.
I don't remember the interest rate.
probably like astronomical.
Yeah, probably.
Mhm. Short term, yeah.
And I way overpaid for the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Like now looking back, they had no sales, and it
Mhm.
was like, what am I paying $30,000 for?
Mhm.
I didn't even ask. I didn't even ask to like lower the price or anything. I was just like, here's $30,000.
Yeah. To be fair, I wouldn't either. Freddie did that, and I literally thought he was going to lose that deal. I wanted to like kick him under the table. I think I was kicking him under the table. I was like, you're going to ruin this for me.
Yeah, I liked that part of the podcast where you have to be willing, and goes back to real estate, because I don't think we like did like a huge intro, but now I do real estate,
Mhm.
and I love real estate because it's so multifaceted. Like you have to be willing to like negotiate, and it's learning those negotiation skills that
Yes.
I just now learned
Mm-hmm.
from real estate, and I wish I had them like earlier in life. I wish I would have found real estate earlier in life.
Yeah.
But, so I paid $30,000 for that thing. It ended up being fine. Like we got really busy, and
Yeah, you guys were slammed for
Yeah.
coffee in that time. You
Yeah.
know, now it's a little bit different. But back then, like, you guys were really busy.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I mean,
She's still really busy there.
she's busier than I am.
Yeah.
So I guess as far as like structure of like how we want to like go through the timeline of things, I could go on forever about like the whole, process of
Yeah. Well,
how it
I want to
got
hear
busy.
all of your businesses that you've
I'll try to
done.
shorten up each. I feel like it's been such a long time, and everything like went for so long. Like
Yeah. Well, just like the
coffee shops
highlights.
are so long. Yeah.
Yeah, things that people
Yeah.
want to know. I can kind of interrupt you with questions too.
Yes, please.
But I
Yeah.
would love to go over, because like the real estate, I'm super interested in too, and I know that you want to
Yeah.
kind of. But I mean, we can go on for an hour. I know Deshaun's not going to like more than an hour, but we can go on for like an hour and a half. It's fine.
Well, I love my story.
Yes, me too.
And it's been really hard, like going through all of this, and like looking back now, I can look at the highlights, but like going through it, it just felt like my world was ending at times.
Yeah.
So
You should write a book. I'm just going to throw that out there.
and you wrote a book,
Yeah, I had help.
and I got I'm halfway through.
Yes.
Yeah. I ordered
Yes.
it on Amazon, so
Yes.
everyone should go order a copy on Amazon.
Yes.
There was a lot of things about you that I didn't know. A ton.
Yeah.
Well, all of it I didn't know.
Yeah. A lot of stuff didn't make it into the book. It just would have been way too long, you know? But but yeah, you should definitely write a book. That would be very inspirational. Okay, so you have the coffee stand. I know you hired your sister, was like your first employee, right? And your only, maybe? Yeah.
So when my husband, Bill, he approached me to buy this coffee shop, and I thought, I don't know how to run a business. I mean, I had that little sandwich shop, but that wasn't really a business in my eyes. I didn't think of it that way. And we had a baby. He was 4 months old when we opened the coffee shop.
Oh.
And so I was working at a hotel. We were both working at the Davenport. And my mom, I gave her the baby every time I went to work, and she watched him full time, and I worked every morning at 5 a.m. And actually, I didn't know what time a coffee shop opened. So we get the keys to this coffee shop, and it's April 1st. Oddly enough, we get the keys on April 1st. And the next day, I called my sister, and I was like, hey, I bought this coffee shop. Like, come and help me. Like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, okay. I said, what time should we open? I knew nothing. And
You didn't even know how to make coffee?
I didn't remember. Like, I had started my job at Victoria's. It was this little tiny coffee shop where Dutch Bros is on Monroe and Francis.
Yeah.
And I didn't really remember. It had been years prior. And I think we had like an automatic machine at that point. And so when I walked in this coffee shop, I didn't even think to ask them to train me. I don't know why. I thought I'll just go in there and wing it. So, which is a trend over all of my stories. I just go in there and wing it.
Yeah.
Just like this podcast, I was very nervous about, and I was like, I'll just go in and wing it. I won't even think too much about it.
You know, to be fair, I 100% am winging it every time. So, I mean, that's exactly how I do things too.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for people to know as well. Like, I'm not super organized. I've had friends that have like looked at me and been like, honestly, I don't know how you do what you do, because they know me and they know I'm like a basket case. I'm all over the place. I'm not organized, but I can still do it. You just have to do it, you know? So. And
I want to be organized. Like, and some like parts of my life, I am super organized. And then other parts I'm just like, bah! Like, you know, all over the place. So I think that's what you have to be willing to like shift and change. And that's what makes a good entrepreneur. Is like being able to like get messy, but also being able to like wrangle it in and like put it all together.
And just see it through, you know, don't give up. I think people are willing to just give up when things get difficult. You know? So.
Well, if you don't have any other option, you can't. And that's another trend. Like, so going back to the like opening day, I called my sister. I was like, what time do you think we should open? I didn't even ask any questions to the previous owners, nothing. And she's like, I don't know, 9? And I was like, yeah, 9 sounds good. Like, that's early. We show up at like 9 or 8:30 and we open, and like immediately there's a line because they were somewhat busy. And so like the first car that rolls up, they were like, I'll have a soy chai. And I was like, got it. Soy chai. And like,
what's a soy
I'm like
chai?
looking around the shop, I'm like, soy chai, and I'm looking for anything that says soy chai. And so we kind of like fumbled our way through it. And all I knew at that point, I had worked at the Davenport Hotel for years, and I knew that I wanted to bring that level of service into the coffee shop, because I really loved their model of like high-end service. And I thought, I don't go anywhere else besides like a hotel like this and get this level of service. So I brought that in with the coffee shop. And so even on my first day when I knew nothing, I just thought, if I give this high level of service, it's going to make up for my lack of knowledge.
It probably did.
And so people would pull up and I would be like, act like they're my old friend. Like, hey, it's so good to see you. Like, thank you for coming to my coffee shop. But also like keeping things like, I'm always grateful and always humble, because wherever I'm at, it amazes me that people come and support me. Even after I've been doing it for years, whenever someone walks through the door of my business, I'm like, oh my God, thank you for coming. Like, it's so like cheesy and silly, but that, along with like giving them that high level of service, I feel like is what brought people back. And then just, it was always, we were having fun. And so that first day, I closed early. I closed at like 2. We were there like 9 to 2, and I was like, I need help. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I started making phone calls. I called like the coffee. Like, I looked on the bag of beans, and I was like, who got this coffee? Like, where'd it come from? And I was totally unprepared. And they left me with maybe like 2 days supply. And I remember we went to cash and carry, got all these supplies, and the coffee roaster came in like the next day, and they were super nice, showed me how to like pull a shot. And then it was just me and my sister, and we were just like, okay, we got to open earlier, like maybe 7. And eventually I started driving around the coffee shops to see what they did. And we didn't have like all this like social media back then. We didn't have like the internet. Like, I don't even think I didn't have a smartphone. We didn't have a computer at home. So
wait, what year was this in the coffee industry?
This was 2007.
We started the exact same year.
Oh.
Yeah, that's crazy. We didn't have any of that. Everything was word of mouth.
Yeah.
It was hard to learn that.
Yeah. And where was your first shop?
Mission and Green. And I didn't even...
and it's still there.
Yeah. And I had people like coming in telling me like roasters and stuff. Like they would say little things, and I would just catch on, and I would be like, oh, okay. You know, I would listen to anybody. And that's kind of the thing about being like humble is like, if like, say I go into work for one of my employees, like I am their employee at that point. I don't know more than you. Like, you've been working here every day. You know, it is really important. And I can totally identify with somebody like supporting you. It almost brings like tears to your eyes. You're like, thank you. Like, I'm so, you know, it really is important, I think, to be humble. And I also think about like Cafe d'Arte, my roaster, whenever they take me over to like Seattle, and they'll always bring me down to some fancy restaurant, show me all of like the places that like serve their coffee. And it just makes me feel like I'm excited every single time. Like, it never gets old, you know, like I don't ever want to be like that grumpy old business owner that's like overworked and hates their life, you know? Yeah.
And that's what makes a good entrepreneur is like, there's always something to learn, always.
Yeah.
And that's even younger people, like for a little while I was like, what can I learn from a younger person who doesn't have experience like I do?
Yeah.
And a lot, like now with social media and like everything, there's a lot to learn. There's always a lot to learn, no matter what age you are, how much experience you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you go from 1 to 2? So you obviously figured that out, because that does take a lot of time. I mean, for me, it took me like a good 3 years to really pick up on it. It was just, thank God, people would come in and kind of give you a piece of advice here and there.
Yeah.
And you'd pick up on it, because otherwise I would still be probably doing the same stupid stuff I was doing, wondering why I wasn't growing or something like that. Like, you should be growing every year was one of the things. Yeah. And what he meant was, you know, inflation, for example, every year. You should either be like raising your prices to some level every couple of years or with inflation, or you should be gaining more customers every year. And when they said that, I was like, oh, I've been at like the same sales every day. Because back then I used to think on like sales was on a daily basis, not necessarily like on a monthly or a yearly like it is now for me. But that really was like a aha moment for me. I was like, oh, I better figure something else out, you know? Yeah. So then how, once you figured that out, did you go to store 2? Where did that one come from?
So when I bought the shop, it was called The Fix, and it was painted brown. And I was fine with that. I was like, this is fine. Like, I'll just keep going with what they're doing. And I like this. This is one of my favorite stories. There's this gal who walks around the neighborhood still to this day. So this was like in 2006. She was walking around 2007. And she lived in this like group home. So she had like some like developmental delay. Like, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but she walked around all day along the neighborhood, and she'd come up and she'd get quarters for laundry, and we give her water, or she'd want to suck her, and we're like, here you go. And she was just our little neighborhood gal. And so one day she came up, and she was really kind of quiet, but she came up to the window and she's like, you need to paint the whole store. And she was like looking down at the ground. I was like, okay, thanks for your input. And I was like, what can I learn from this lady? Again, going back to like, you can learn something from anybody. Yeah. And I kind of just disregarded it. I was like, yeah. Like, it's fine. It's The Fix, and it's brown, and we're fine. Yeah. And so I started thinking about it, because I think like what you mentioned, like perception, like being like just looking around and picking up on things that people are saying or suggesting the first time. And it usually takes me a second to like let it sink in. But I left work that day and got in my car, and I had like a Victoria's Secret bag in my passenger seat. And this gal had told me, like, you need to paint the stand. She's like a rainbow. And I was like, whatever, like, get out of here. Here's your sucker. Get out of here. Yeah. And I sit in my car and I look at this bag and I was like, pink and black. I need to like paint this whole thing pink and black. Yes. And the next day, like, I go home and I tell Bill, I'm like, we need to paint the store pink and black. And so we literally, I think even that night, we went to the hardware store and I picked out the brightest pink you could possibly get. And I got pink, and then we did black trim, and we opened the next morning. We get everything done quickly. That's I'm really impatient. Yeah. So we paint the whole thing, and the next day, that was the turning point. And it's so funny because it lined up really, like, perfectly. As soon as I got the rhythm of the stand and, like, how to really help people and, like, be efficient, and I think by that time I had another employee, I got this idea to paint the stand. And that morning I opened at 5 a.m. and I had a line of cars. I couldn't see the end. And I was like crying. And I still like think of that as like one of my best one of the best feelings I've ever had.
Yep.
Because it's like, oh my God, I figured it out.
Yeah.
And so.
And then you had 2 stands that were painted different, right? And then painting them pink.
So the first one, when I painted it pink and it like blew up, I thought like, okay, this is what I need to do. And I changed the name from the Fix to Deb's because I thought I'm just going to have like one shop. I'll just do this shop. It'll just be me and my sister. And I don't know. I go back and forth about whether or not I regret calling it Deb's. I don't know if it was the best name. I always tell people I'm really terrible at naming things. So I just end up naming them like I had a store called
too.
Monroe.
Yeah. I don't think the names are super important,
Yeah.
but I do think that having the 2 that were like a chain,
Yeah.
that was one thing that I noticed with my business was once I opened the second, say Blissful, the first one got so much busier. And then painting it pink, like for one, the girl telling you and then you listening, I really believe that like the universe speaks through people. So I always am trying to listen to things that just catch my attention, you know? And like that was probably like what I would consider the universe speaking to you, and you caught on and you did it. But yeah, I think that's an awesome story. I love that. Yeah.
So once I got this like brand, like it was like I figured out my brand, and I opened the second store, and it was actually in the Valley, on Dishman Micah in Bowdish.
Oh yeah.
And it was like this. It wasn't doing very well. I saw it on Craigslist. It was like $10,000, and I thought, well, I just paid $30 for this shop. I can pay $10 for this one, and I ended up paying cash for it because I just banked all my cash. Like I've always been a saver. Yeah. And so by that time we had enough cash. Well, I should credit my husband for that. He's the saver.
Yeah.
So we had put cash away just in case anything happened with the shop, like we could cover the cost. So we like dove all in and like paid for the second shop, painted it pink right away, put our branding up, and it was that like chain kind of effect, like that now we're like a whole entity. And so my customer reach was broader. And so then I saw this, I had my eye on this shop and on Nevada and Francis, and it was like a block. And I kept telling Bill, I was like, that's my shop. That's mine. And it was like another coffee shop. And I was like, we got to have that one because it's the perfect distance. It's a 5-lane road. And that's what you've talked about a couple times in your podcast is like, once you figure out what makes the shop busy, and if you pay attention and learn, then it's easy to identify what could be successful. Yeah. It was also on the right side of the road for all the traffic going downtown in the morning. So I just like got obsessed with like watching the shop I go through. I'm like, is this for sale? Is it selling? Who's the owner? And finally I drove through one day and it had a for sale sign on it. And I was like, it's mine. Yep. So I got that one, painted it pink, did the whole thing. And that's when we had the 3 stores, was like when it really got like cooking. Like
how much did you buy that one for?
So that one's like a long story, and I'll shorten it as much as I can. So I bought this from this guy, said he owned it, and I was like, okay, here's some money. Owner finance contract is how I got that one. So he's like, I'll accept payments from you. So he lived in like Kettle Falls, and I met him up there, made my first payment, and then I got the stand like really busy. This thing was busier than Northwest Boulevard. And so I'm like busy. This guy comes up to the window and he's like, this is my coffee shop. This random dude parks his car, walks up to my window. I'm working. He's like, this is my coffee shop. I was like, no, sir, this is my coffee shop. Yeah. And come to find out, he had like owner financed it to somebody, and they owner financed it to somebody. They owner financed it to somebody. And I was like the 5th person down the line. Nobody was successful until I came in. And so when he saw it successful, he was like, I want my money. So we went into like this big legal battle, and it ended up that we settled with him for like $8,000. So I had initially gone in there, only made like 2 payments of maybe $1,000 and then settled for $8,000. So I was only in at like 10.
And then it was yours free and clear at that point?
Yeah, except for my legal fees. Were like, ended up being like $60,000.
Oh my.
It was crazy. Yeah. It drug on. Yeah. And no one was willing to budge. And finally the legal fees started like climbing to a point where he settled. Wow. So it was a long, ugly story. Yeah. So finally, when it was mine, free and clear, I was like, okay, now we can start making money. Well, I got to pay back all these things, all the lawyers, but
well, I think there's 2 gems in there though. There's like when you got the 3, how everything just kind of blows up. So the brand recognition is super duper important when you're trying to, you know, run a successful business. And then, the owner carry contract. Yeah. Because I bought so many of my businesses on an owner carry contract. And that was something
including
that like,
mine.
Yes, including yours. Yes, I think, and I can't even remember because I don't even remember how many. I know I've sold a couple coffee stands, but at least like 7 or 8 I've done that way because a lot of banks won't touch. So when people are like, oh, I can't get that because a bank won't loan me money, I can't find the money somewhere. Sometimes you can approach that owner who's absolutely sick of running this business, who realizes that it's almost impossible, because there's even still businesses, like if you don't own the real estate or something of tangible value, then a bank still won't touch it. Yeah. And so you can still go to, like, say there's a craft 3 that's like a short-term, high interest, whatever. So it feels kind of like an owner carried contract, because what I would do is put like a minimal payment down, you know, and then I would be like, well, what would I want to get out of this, you know? And I'd want like a substantial amount every month. So I'd come up with some sort of short term, like 1 or 2 years, and do the math and figure out, you know, how much would I give them and how quickly could I pay it off and make it really like lucrative for them. Yeah. But I also knew that I could flip it and do something really, you know. So no is never the end of the road. Yeah. You know?
That's true. And I struggle with that because I'm like, is the universe telling me no?
Yeah.
Or like,
or
is the person
just
telling me
no?
So like, I want to follow what the universe wants me to do, but also I'm like,
Okay. So coffee stands. I know at some point you got rid of the Bowdish one. Yeah. How did that happen?
It just wasn't doing well and we closed it. I didn't want to sell it because I have this like very prideful thing where I'm like, I have done this thing the best it can do. Like I made it the busiest it will ever be, and it's not going to get any more busy. And I've learned that other people can do things better than me.
You might be right on the Bowdish one though.
The Bowdish one, I am right. Yeah, actually I was right on that one because I didn't want to sell it because I actually felt bad selling it. If I was even going to sell it for like, you know, even a minimal amount, I would have felt bad. And actually what ended up happening, instead of selling the business as a whole, I had all this equipment that I owned inside of it. And I thought, I'll just find another location. So this is how the bar happened. So this like,
what year is this
bar
then?
was born. This was 2011. Okay. So I opened the first stand in 2007. Yeah. I opened the second one in 9 and the third one in 9. So it like moved really quickly.
We have a similar past.
Yeah. Because I think it just like, and I think all along we were like connected in some way because I would watch your stands or go through them and really admire how you were building your business. And I never even met you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And we were talking the other day about like, do we even know how we met? I don't know. But it was like, maybe? We kind of have like this, it's so weird that we can't remember. But I think it was like when I was putting my business up for sale and we kind of met. Yeah. You were like,
that's a fun story though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we kind of teased each other. Yeah. For a long time before, like via our reader boards.
Yes. Yes.
Should we talk about that now, or is there more to the story?
We should talk about that, and then we can go back to like how my failed stand turned into a bar.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess that's a good like cliffhanger, like tagline. I'm like, who's gonna want to listen to my podcast? Maybe that'll like reel them in, like make them stay. No. But I know my mom's gonna listen to this, so I want to say hi, Mom.
I know we have family members that'll listen. If anything,
my mom was like, "Can I come on with you?" And I was like, "No, Mom, this is my thing."
He knows, butt out. Okay, so if anybody listened to Freddie and I's podcast, we negotiated a deal with the chick that owned, at the time it was called The Boulevard. And it's like almost directly across the street from yours. Yeah. And I just always remember looking across, and we turned that into a lingerie stand, right? Because that's literally the only thing that would work there. I mean, just
and I learned that from you.
Yeah. And I remember looking next door to yours. You guys were so busy, and we'd be like dead, you know? And I was like, oh, that place is so cute. It was like hot pink with the black trim, and it just looked really sharp, you know?
Yeah.
And you guys were always so busy, and we were like, I wish we could be busy like that. And then one day, you put something on the reader board that said something about like serving coffee with your clothes on, or with our clothes on or something.
We serve pastries, not pasties.
Oh, yes.
That's what it was.
It was so good. And I was like, she's hilarious. I was like, this is so funny. And I wish I could remember how we went back and forth, because it was so funny and it got the news attention.
Yes.
Like, it was like the reader board wars on, I mean, it goes to show how much action goes on in Spokane, Washington. Like,
well, back then there wasn't all the like drama that's happening now.
Yep. Okay, so tell me about that a little bit.
That stand has always been, when I first moved in, I actually didn't even know it was over there.
Yeah,
so down the road was Jitters, and they were probably the busiest stand in Spokane, open 24 hours a day at that point.
Wow.
And I did not even know there was a stand across the street from me. That's how, like, I was in the zone. I was like, my shop, like, what am I doing?
Yep.
And I wish I could do that now and just focus in on, like, what I'm doing and nobody else, and take that with me now. But maybe if I listen back on this, I'll remember. I'll write a note to myself.
Yep.
I remember the gal that owned Jitters had come through my shop one day, because I copied her straight up. I was like, she did a 425 mocha.
Yes.
Quad mocha.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm going to do a $4 mocha.
Yes, we all still copy each other in the coffee industry. It is what it is.
This was the first time someone copied her, because she came through mad as hell. And she's like, gets out of her car. She parked her car in the middle of the street, the median, and like comes walking over, bangs on my window. And I'm like, she's like, what are you doing? $4 mocha, like with this $4 mocha. And I was like
she owned $4 mochas.
Yeah. And so she was so mad, and I couldn't believe how angry I made her. I didn't mean to. I was just like, oh, that's business. And she had bought the stand across the street and called it Jitters 2 with the TOO.
Right.
And I didn't even know it was over there. And that's when like she got mad, because I was like taking all of her customers that came down. She was sending them down to Jitters 2, and then they'd take a right into my shop and pay the $4. So I look over there, Jitters 2. She eventually sells it to these two like super adorable sisters. Their parents purchased this coffee shop for them. And then it was me and my sister and those two sisters, and we were about the same age. And so they started like, we call this story like balloon wars. Like, they started putting balloons out, and I was like, well, I'm gonna put balloons out.
Yep.
And then it was hilarious. It blew up to be this whole thing where we got a tank to fill the balloons that I rented, and I started making these like elaborate archways of balloons, and then they would make the same thing. And then at some point they sold the stand, and that stand, your stand, it was on the wrong side of the road. I mean, that's why it never got busy. And so we were just got that morning traffic, and it was just, it's still always going to be busy to this day, but except for your concept takes it to the next level. So
it's just the only thing that works right there.
Yeah. So we were used to the competition between that stand from that point on. And so when you moved in and you were a bikini stand, I think initially I had these like negative. Oh, you know what? I wrote a nasty Facebook post about you.
Oh, I didn't even know. Or maybe I did.
I think you did.
I probably did.
So.
Yeah. And I was just like, thought everything was kind of so funny, you know?
Yeah. I did too. And it was like.
You seemed like you had a sense of humor, that's for sure.
Yeah. I have a really like weird, dry, dark sense of humor. Yeah. It's like, I don't know.
We're very similar.
Yeah. So when you moved in with this bikini stand, it was one of the first ones. I mean, there was a couple others, but when you moved in, I was like, this is disgusting. And I wasn't disgusted by the model. I was disgusted mostly because like, now I have to compete with somebody who has something totally different than what I can offer. Because I think at that point I was pregnant with my second baby. I cannot put on a bikini.
Yeah.
Do what you were doing. So there was one point, and this is what I wrote my Facebook post about. There was like a car that had pulled up, And I thought, like, they can't be selling coffee. Why are they so busy? They're not selling coffee. They're like prostitutes.
Yes, yes,
So I wrote this Facebook post. I took a picture of the stand and I was like, do you think they're selling coffee or do you think they're prostitutes? And like, I feel terrible now for like writing this.
No, don't, because it's just good. I mean, any publicity is good publicity. I've learned that along the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I had a lot of fun with it. You know, I was the perfect person for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad it was you versus the jitters lady who wanted to like knife me.
And now I think back to like, if somebody would have opened up, like, let's say if I was you and this wasn't like an idea that I was like, I want to do that and take that as my own, I would have reacted the same way, especially like the way that, I mean, I have kind of a story like of how I kind of shed all of my insecurities. I just had to put all of that stuff aside to be all in this business.
Yeah.
So I just have like a completely different story. I guarantee you I would have reacted the same way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And
So.
we're both really competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, but I'm always competitive, like in a good way.
Yeah.
I feel like.
No, you're fair.
But
yeah.
except for that Facebook, I have made mistakes along the way. And I was like, I'm going to use this podcast to like set the record straight and tell people I'm sorry for like shitty things I've done. And so that was one of them that like, I felt bad. And like, I keep it in my Facebook memories because I look back at it and I cringe. I'm like, why did I react that way? But it comes down to like being competitive. And I just knew I couldn't be competitive. So.
But did we even hurt your business though?
No.
Yeah.
No,
so it's like a niche. And I've learned over
Yeah.
time that we're such a niche that it doesn't even, I would open up a Black Sheep right down the road from each and every one of my Blissfuls.
Yeah. It's such a unique business model. And the people who are going to go there are going to go there.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe a couple of my customers I would see over there because I'd know their car. And I'm like, oh, you guy.
But like, they probably came back to you for good coffee because I guarantee our coffee was crap back then.
Probably. I mean, we did have good coffee, but if we were too busy, I would see people like scooch over there. They'd go right across the street.
Yeah.
And so with the reader board thing, you were over there like getting busier. You were the busiest stand and it just burned me up. Like, I want those people to come over here and I can't make them come over here.
Yeah.
And so I would talk crap to all my customers, like, I can't believe what they're doing over there. And now I admire it and I think it's great.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't feel bad because I think that really helped the whole dynamic. People like that kind of drama. They would like come,
but
you know what I
we
mean?
didn't even know at the time that we were creating this whole like little thing. And we did. And see, look at that. We were working together.
Yeah. And we didn't even know it.
The whole time. To help each other. So I was complaining to one of my customers and she was a teacher and she worked at Havermale. It was that alternative school right across the street. And she's like, I said, cause I like doing my reader board. That was my big, and I think I probably picked that up from you actually, cause you changed your reader board a lot.
Yeah.
And so I thought like, that's our only way to connect with people who are driving by. Like I can't tell them we're great. I can't say anything, but I can put whatever on this board. And so you would change your reader board quite often. And I picked up on that and I was like, I told the girls like, change the reader board every day.
Yeah.
And they got so annoyed with me. And my sister always jokes with me, like everyone who's ever worked for me is like, come on, like, because I'll tell people like, hey, we're gonna do this, and it's something like goofy or annoying.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I have this reason. So
well, that's actually a gem too, because we're not really, as a coffee stand, we're not like destination locations necessarily.
Yeah.
We're all drive by. So you've got to get that attention for those people that are driving by. So reader boards or changing your signage or anything that you can do to draw them in.
That dance.
Yes. Anything goofy like that, or like whatever deal you have. And now you can use social media to some degree.
Yeah.
But mostly it's like if you have a sign or a reader board to draw people in with that.
We would go as far as to like stand outside dancing on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what can I, like, I'm going to go out there and just be like, wave them in. And I would. So I was like willing to do anything, but I was like, we need to change the reader board all the time. So then this teacher came through and she's like, I was like, can you believe what they're doing over there with that bikini stand? And she's like, it's terrible. She's like, I'm going to have my students come up with something funny for your reader board. So it wasn't me. It was actually her students.
That's hilarious.
And she did this contest. She told them the story and she's like, what could we put on Deb's reader board? And so one of the students came up with, we sell pastries, not pasties.
I love that.
So we left that up forever. Like, I think it was up there for like 6 months.
I wish can you remember what we wrote back?
No, you did write something back because we kept going back
and forth.
Yeah.
And I know I bet you could dig in your pictures because you take pictures of everything.
Yeah, I do.
I want to, yeah, man, I wish I could remember because it was funny.
Yeah.
We went back and forth enough that like the news ended up coming out.
Yeah.
But it didn't even happen because you know how like when you're sitting there and you expect something to blow up, like I immediately went in there and it was way tougher. I thought, oh, it'll be a lingerie stand and everybody will come. Just, you know, if you build it, they will come type of thing.
Yeah.
And no, it took me forever to find the girls that I really felt good about having in there. And then like I thought somebody would call the news surely like the first day. Well, no, it was like weeks in and I'm like, I'm calling the news. So I had to call the news and pretend like I was some angry parent, you know, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm sure people were calling, but like I really aggravated it, you know, to get it going.
Yeah.
But I needed that publicity.
This is back when people were watching the news.
I know, right?
I know. Like it sounds so silly now, like who watches the news? But back then.
Well, and when half naked chicks were taboo. Like that's not out of the ordinary now. Yeah. It's like everybody on social media is like almost naked, you know? So it's totally normal.
But your stands are still doing really well.
Yeah, they do good.
Yeah.
But, you know, so that's something though that is such a niche that like the blissfuls are way more lucrative overall, you know, especially if like you have like the right location. Yeah. That's something that where you can take a turd and basically spit shine it into a diamond, you know?
Which
it's
is
like
what you did with my Nevada shop. So I can't remember. I'll have to think about the timeline. So going back to the failed coffee shop that became a bar was on accident. And
where was that?
The Valley Coffee Shop. So when I closed the Valley Coffee Shop, I had all that equipment.
Yeah.
And I think because I want to set the timeline up for when you purchased Nevada, because it was kind of the same like timeline. Yeah. So I had this coffee shop in the Valley that failed, and I look on Craigslist and I find this like the corner of Garland and Lincoln, and right smack dab in the middle of the Garland district. Somebody had a commercial building for $600 a month, and I was like, $600? That's like nothing. I was paying like $1,500 at every other shop. And so I called, and I didn't even know what I was going to do with it. I thought I'll do you could sell anything in the middle of Garland. Like, I don't even know what it's going to be. And at this point, I only had coffee experience. So I thought I'll put a little coffee shop in there, even though it's across from Rocket. Rocket was like, at the time, they've blown up now. They're a huge company now, but I thought I can compete with them for sure. If I put a Deb's that you could sit down and I could take my like really successful baristas and put them in a sit down shop, and then people will just love it because they can visit with them longer, because our wait times in the window were so long, because when you like a barista, you're going to sit there and chat with her, and if she's not picking up on a line or something, then you lose all these customers. So I leased this little space, and I thought I'll take all this stuff from the Valley. It happened at the same time. The Valley was kind of not doing well, and I saw this space. So I thought I'll put all this equipment in this space and make a sit-down coffee shop. So I get in there, and Bill's like building out this coffee shop space, and I thought we should do like live music, because I love music, and we should do beer and wine or something. And I wasn't really a drinker at that point in my life, but I was like, just beer and wine, like, you know, for the older folks, and then like some live music. So we look at a liquor license, and a beer and wine license was like $600, and a full liquor license was like $1,200 a year. Wow. And I was like, well, just get the whole thing, and we'll just serve liquor, we'll have the option to serve liquor. So we start like putting all the coffee shop equipment in there, and we're finding like there's not enough outlets, and there's not enough like panel. There's all these problems coming up as far as coffee shop goes, and we couldn't do a drive-through window like we wanted, and we're across from Rocket. So I was like, let's just do a bar. straight up a bar. Again, winging it. I had no idea how to run a bar. How much different from coffee is it?
Was it?
Like, no.
Yeah.
It's the same business model flipped upside down. So instead of like an upper, well, I guess it's still an upper, but like it's a drink that like makes you feel some type of way. So you get the coffee feeling like motivated.
Yeah. And instead of AM, it's PM.
Yep. So we end up like getting a liquor license, like building out a bar, and I'm pregnant with our third child at the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's open a bar. And so Bill builds out this like beautiful bar, and I like go and find all this like random furniture on Craigslist, like little tables and chairs. I found like a church pew I put in there.
You made it look really cute.
It was cool. It was like there were bars along the way, but I didn't know. I just knew coffee, and I thought I'm gonna just do it, dive in and do it. We spent all of our money opening this bar, and then at like the last minute, we're like, okay, what do we call it? And then like, because I'm not creative, it's the Drinkery.
Yeah, that's very cute though.
It was cute. Yeah,
that's catchy.
Yeah, and so we ended up getting our liquor license granted on St. Patrick's Day.
Wow.
Of
perfect timing.
11. It's 2011.
You hadn't sold me. Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's why I ended up selling.
Yeah.
Because like we opened this bar and I was pregnant, and opening day is St. Patty's Day. And I was like, Bill is like my like right hand man. He's like, you know, not only my husband, but like in business where we balance each other so well. So he just goes along with my like crazy ideas and supports them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we need liquor like today, like let's open today. Like what a better day than St. Patrick's Day to open. So I remember like there was like dust on the bar from like construction, and we had like no glasses. I was like, go get some plastic cups. Like, let's just do it. And so me and my sister, I drag her along all my projects. We like, I remember like clicking on the open sign at like noon, and it was like, I had never bartended a day in my life ever. I didn't know what a Long Island iced tea was. Nothing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You didn't have a cheat sheet?
No.
Did you just ask him what's in a Long Island?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I would have done.
I think at that point I did have a smartphone, and I would like go in the back and be like, Long Island iced tea. Like, I totally winged it. And luckily, St. Patrick's Day, no one cares. They're just like, like, let's get hammered. Yeah. So I didn't have green beer. They were like, do you have a green beer? All this, you know, whatever.
What's a green beer?
I know. I was like, I didn't get green beer. I didn't even know we were going to be open. We did so well. Like, without even, I was pulling things out of boxes. Like, I was sending people to go get ice at the gas station. I just had no idea. And then we made, like, the coffee shops used to do, like, anywhere between, like, $900 and $1,200 a day. Probably, like, maybe $600 on, like, a crappy Monday. That
was a lot back then.
It was, yeah. And so I knew that we were a busy shop, like coffee shops. And so I was kind of like basing all of my knowledge for like sales off of there. So I don't remember what we made that first day, but it was enough to make me go like, oh my God, like I'm like ditching these coffee shops. I can't believe how much money people spend on alcohol.
And the cost of good on alcohol is way less than on coffee, right?
Because you don't have like
the
paper
straws.
cups and like the disposable stuff, like the extra stuff, and then like all the syrups and all that. Like I can sell this bottle of alcohol for like, you know, 30 times the coffee. So, and then people won't, with the coffee shops, they buy like 1 or 2 a day, 2 at most. But like with a bar, you can sell someone
5. 10.
However many they can handle a day. So I'm like, this is such a better business model. As soon as the bar got busy, I thought we need to like dump these coffee shops. And so I started making my exit plan with the coffee shops. And the first one I put up for sale is, I think, when we met for the first time in person.
And how did you put it up for sale? Because
I put it on Craigslist.
And then I just called you and I was like, oh, let's meet. And you were so cool to meet. I remember when you walked in, I was like, she is so cute. I never saw you.
I thought the same about you.
I was like all excited. I was like, oh my gosh, she's a successful businesswoman and she's so cute and young. And then you sat down and told me like your whole story. You know, we totally clicked right off the bat. and you had all these kids, and we literally had like the same story.
Yeah.
I mean, I think yours is way more interesting than mine, to be honest with you. You've tried so many different things.
Well, our stories are way different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so similar, you know? Okay, but yeah, I was actually kind of shocked that, and that kind of just, like, I feel like we're similar in that way. Like, we'll reach out. I thought you probably wouldn't want to sell to me, you know? And so I was like, oh, she'll probably just ignore me or whatever. But of course I'm going to reach out anyways because it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then you did, and I was like, whoa. And then when we met, it was very cool.
Yeah.
So that's
we had so much to talk about, just like now.
Yeah. Yep. Always.
We could go on for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had the same experience opening coffee shops, and then we had this like common goal of like we wanted to grow, and that was that's what you wanted to do with the coffee shops. And then I thought, I'm going to open 10 bars.
Yes.
So I put Northwest Boulevard up for sale first, and you didn't buy Northwest Boulevard. I think I was asking a lot more for Northwest.
I think you really you were leaning so much towards Vanessa. You really were rooting for her to get it. And I was like kind of rooting for her to get it too, because she was your morning girl for forever.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
so that was the first stand I put up for sale because I knew I would make the most. And Vanessa was like, I'll think about it. And I just thought, I really want her to have this. And so I kind of just like
you kept me on the hook. We were kind of back and forth.
Yeah. And I thought, I hope she can do it, because she was trying to like see where she could like get a small business loan or borrow money from family. And then I did like an owner carried contract. And as soon as she got that one, I put up Nevada for sale. But at the same time is when Dutch Bros moved in. So
was that the same time?
Yeah. Well, I think that prompted my like, I need to sell these shops and just do the bar, because the bar is less competition than coffee. And I was tired. Like after all of that, like sign wars, balloon wars, I was like, I need to like cool it on the competition, because I'll just go crazy. So then I put Nevada up for sale.
And your mom was working there.
Yeah. And we could not compete with Dutch Bros. They opened up a stand on the corner of Francis and Monroe, and I was 1 block north. And they just like crushed me. And I called you because we had met, and I knew that I felt like you had more experience than I did. I was like, this is like who I need to go to.
Well, I had that perfect niche, you know,
Yeah.
the one that could take something that was going to fail and kind of turn it into something that was at least going to survive, you know?
Yeah. And when I called you, I was like, Dutch Bros like crushed me. They took my sales like down to a third. And that was my like biggest producing stand. And I was so upset, And I wrote this Facebook post. When I'm upset, I'll write a Facebook post. I don't do that anymore, but I wrote this.
It's upsetting though.
It is.
Like, that's rough. You work so hard.
And again, going back to like being an entrepreneur and knowing when to like shift, like, and knowing when to do it instead of hanging on too long to things that aren't working because you have too much pride or too much invested. I think that you need to recognize when it's time. And if you don't make that shift, then you're just like
gonna
stuck
tank
there.
Yeah. And that's why you're a true entrepreneur, because I feel like you take that hint and then you shift and then you make something else successful.
Yeah.
And then when you realize it's like whatever, you know, I guess we'll get into what happened with the bar. Why'd you sell that? Because I was shocked you sold that. We considered buying that, you know. But I was like, I couldn't possibly take on a bar. And I was trying to convince Mike that he could, and he was convinced that he could. And I'm like, you work at Kaiser. I can't even keep up with your schedule. Like, how are you going to manage a bar? You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, anyone can do it,
right?
Obviously.
I know. There's me like trying to poo-poo somebody's motivation.
Oh, poor Mike.
Yeah. Why did you sell the bar?
Well, because I found real estate, I guess.
Yeah.
So my biggest fear was becoming a 50-year-old bartender, and I'm 40 next year, and I'm like, okay, like if I want to start an entirely new career or new whatever, what is it, and how long is it going to take me to get really good at it, and what kind of money do I need?
Apparently not very long.
1 year I learned. It's my like learning curve for everything. So when I called you about the coffee shop and I was like, Dutch Bros is killing me, you were like, open a bikini stand.
Yep.
You told me to.
Oh, anybody I wanted to buy from, that's one thing I would always give them advice, like make it a bikini stand. And if you don't want to, or you think that's a bad idea, sell it to me and I will. But first, it's a good idea. You should do it.
Yeah. Which I admired a lot. Like, I think that it's just like real estate. Like when I wanted to get into real estate, all these real estate agents told me not to. And weird. There's two reasons. First of all, it's either it's more competition for them or they really like think I can't do it. I don't know which it is, like for whoever was telling me that. But with real estate, there's enough real estate to go around. There's a lot of really terrible agents and there's very few really good ones. So it's easy for me, in my eyes, it's easy to succeed in real estate if you're willing to actually do the work. So going back to like the bikini stand, you had no problem saying like, make it a bikini stand. Like this is what will fix it. And I think that's when I really thought like, oh, you're like a really good person that like I can identify with because you were willing to give me that advice, even though it went against like what would have been best for you of saying like, I'll just buy it. Like it's never going to work for you. Like, let me do it. I know the way. But you were like, let me share my knowledge with you. And I think that's what I respect most in people. And that's what I try to do is if you can share with somebody something that's going to help them, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Do that first. Yeah.
I don't understand ever. Like I struggled in real estate for a couple of years because no one would help me. And then like, finally I got the help I needed and I was like, I see the light. But like when you said open a bikini stand, I said never. I would never. And the reason why is because I already knew I had like I struggled with managing the girls because it's a tough group to manage already without the bikini thing. But like adding that, like I was like, what if she's like wearing too many clothes and I have to go in and tell her to wear like less? Or what if she's like looks a little like
all of the things.
Yeah. Like I can't imagine myself in my position having to go in and say like, I mean, you had your story about like going and telling a gal like, hey, could you
do your hair?
Could you do your hair? Could you like look a little more polished? And she took it very personally and then just drug your name through the mud.
Oh yeah. And then I come in looking like my plain Jane self, all natural. And I'm like, girl, you need to be a diva. It's just all, there's all of the things. Yeah.
It was just something I didn't want to do.
But the other gem in there, and I talked about this concept with Allison, the very first podcast that I did, but it's an abundance mindset versus like the lack. You know, there's more than enough of everything to go around. And I think that you're going to get more when you just I've had so many mentors and so many good people in my life. And it's just inspired me so much to just I just really root for people. Yeah. You know, like truly, you know, like I open my own business and it's very stressful. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, you get sick. It's just so much, you know, and it's really not a happy go lucky time. It really isn't, you know, opening up a business and struggling through all that kind of stuff just kind of sucks, you know, but when you're helping somebody else open up their own business or coaching them, and something that I've been doing a lot more recently, I could just cry at like how excited I get for them. And it's just a whole different vibe. I would much rather just do that for full time than continue to because the struggles never end. Right. You know, but no I must have read that. And I know that because I've read tons of books and, you know, trying to lead up to, you know, having a better mindset in general. And I'm sure I read that a million times over because the most successful people will say that, you know, abundance versus lack, you know, choose abundance, you know. Yeah. And it works every time, you know.
It does. To me, it's like more fulfilling. Like I always feel like if somebody would have just showed me the way, then I would have like gotten this like jump start to my whatever I was doing. And I always had to
always would have circled back to them somehow. It's not like they just send you off and you take all their business and then bye-bye. It's like you end up being like a team and you have a community, and it's just a really beautiful thing.
So I get the same like what I love is helping people. And like I think that's why real estate is like my jam, because it's helping people, and I have to like stop myself, like, am I helping someone too much? So, but like I want to share what I've done because I struggled so hard. And when I need to like, everyone always tells me like I need to find a way to like monetize this, but like I don't have a way so far. But like I was excited to do this podcast because I wanted to kind of lay out how I got started, because everyone's always asking me, I want to open a coffee shop, or I want to open a bar, I want to be in real estate, and I can't tell somebody if they're going to be successful in any of these different paths, but I do know what it takes, and not everybody can do it. And so if you have the energy and the money and the like open mindset to do it, then like by all means I'll tell you how to do everything like
step
A
by
to
step.
Z. Yeah. And even a bar, I'm like, you want to open a bar? Like good luck. Like it's really, really hard. Which I guess that like segues into like why I sold the bar.
Yeah.
So we ended up selling all the coffee shops, and we were just doing the bar, and we had employees at the bar, and it was going really good. Bartenders are drunks, most of them, like 90% of them are sober bartenders, but like bartenders, like that's just the culture. Like you just drink, and like it still sticks with me. Here's
I know.
my little pacifier.
This has been fun. I don't drink very much, and this has been fun. I've been like, blah, blah, blah.
I know. I was like, this might be a bad idea. But
Maybe I slurred a little bit. It's fine.
it's fine. So I very much got into that culture of like drinking, and it's just, I think it's really hard. It takes a really, really, really strong person to break out of that and bartend sober. All of my bartenders that was the biggest thing. Like they would drink, and I'd have to fire them at some point because something got out of hand. And it's when you have something that's like mind altering and you're trying to manage employees. I thought managing like 18-year-old girls was hard, but now I'm like managing like
full on drunks, like
30-year-old alcoholics who have like psychological issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't knock on that because that's me.
We all got a little something.
No, I had really great employees. I actually loved all of them, even if it didn't work out really well. And that's something I want to rewind and talk about, because recently it came up with like at the coffee shops. As soon as I started finding a little bit of success, I got really, really confident to the point where I was just like, okay, I got it down. I know how to do everything. And I started getting sick of everybody's shit. And so I would just fire people. Yeah. And they were very disposable to me because
thinking the grass was greener. Yeah.
Well, just thinking like, okay, you have this tiny little problem now. I'm going to have problems with you like over and over and over and over. And some of the girls at the coffee shops got caught in the line of fire. And like, I feel terrible. Like I keep thinking like, do I reach out to them and tell them like, I'm very sorry, you know, I didn't have a lot of experience. I was in my early 20s trying to like deal with having kids and all these businesses. And so
I think you could if it made you feel better.
I think I will. And I was like, maybe I'll just mention it, you know, like I
think that'd be really
Did you
cute.
have that experience?
Oh
of, like,
my God, yeah.
Growing pains, I guess, is what it is.
I talk about it all the time, and I've actually re-employed most of the girls and been able to just say that, like, oh my gosh, you saw me at my worst. Like, this is so crazy. Yeah. But like appreciate them now and be like, you know, a little bit different. But I would say I appreciated them then, but then you get so stressed out, so angry at something so stupid, and then you're like, I'm not gonna take this, you're fired. And then they're like, well, I'm fired, well, I quit, and then I'm taking all my friends, and I'm just like, it was just like crazy battles. But like I think just being like, also another way of saying sorry is just being very forgiving of other people's kind of, you know, missteps, I guess. You know, if you can't say sorry for whatever reason, which I think is just totally fine, you know. God, we were the same age as most of these girls that we were employing, you know. But then just, you know, kind of, you know, being ultra forgiving, giving second chances. I think people grow, you know, some people don't. I mean, some people stay stuck, but like, I don't mind, you know, giving second, third, fourth chances, maybe too many. I know that some of my upper management staff is probably like, oh, here goes Sarah again with the second chances.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
You know?
And maybe that's why we've come to this point where we like helping people, because it's like, you know,
we messed up so much.
Yeah. Let me help you. Like
I was such an asshole.
Yeah. I think we did what we could. And at the end of the day, I don't think it was ever like terrible. There's a couple people where I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I just, you know.
Yeah.
But same with bartenders. Like, and then it came full circle to where eventually we closed the bar because I got really scared about, I was a first time bar owner. And I was so blinded by the fact that people would spend all this money on alcohol. I didn't really like, I wasn't responsible. I let them drink to this irresponsible point.
Yeah.
And there was a New Year's Eve where there was a fight that broke out, and some guy like smashes the other guy's head on this like pillar, and I thought the guy was gonna die.
Whoa.
Like I was like, I can see his brains, and
Oh my God,
it was
really?
terrible. It was just gory. I was like, oh my gosh, it scared me to the point where I closed the bar.
Wow.
Because I felt like this is too much responsibility for me and my bartenders, and I got scared, and I was like, it was too much success with the bar really quickly.
Yeah.
And I had little kids. I was like distracted. And so I kind of wanted a reset, and I knew that we had enough business, like the bar was busy, and it was too busy.
It was
and
very
so
busy.
I thought like we need food. Like we didn't have food at the time, and so I found this restaurant space available at Gonzaga, and I was like, let's do like a restaurant, like something like tone it down a little bit. So we opened the Foxhole, which was like a bar pizza restaurant, and I tried to make it more of like a fun party, like, you know, college kind of atmosphere. I thought with Gonzaga students, this is perfect. It's on campus. Well, long story short, Jack and Dan's like rules the land, and I just couldn't compete. And it was, I bit off more than I could chew. It was like a whole restaurant, and the costs were crazy.
I remember that. How much was the lease there at the time?
Oh my gosh, it was like
4 or 6.
I want to say it was 6,000.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I want to say it was like
going,
6,666 like per month. And I would go from like it was like a bunch of sixes. That was the universe telling me this is a bad idea, and I didn't listen.
And you employed your dad there and somebody else, your brother-in-law?
My brother-in-law, They both worked at the Drinkery before the Foxhole.
Because you have a history of employing your family members, which is hard and sad when you have to let something go.
Yeah. And at one point, my entire family was on our payroll, and I loved it because I'm like very like, I love being in charge of everything. So I was like, I'll take care of everybody.
Yes. I get that.
Which I've always wanted to do, and I probably will always do my whole life. But yeah, I knew like right away. I was like, this was a terrible idea, and I ended up selling that and just doing nothing. So I had all these coffee shops, the bar, the Foxhole, and then all of a sudden sold everything, and I had nothing, zero. And I like sat around thinking, now I can just like enjoy my life like I've always wanted. I've been so busy.
Yeah, because you had the income coming in from the owner carried contracts.
Yeah, you and Vanessa both did owner carried contracts.
How'd you get rid of the Foxhole? Because this is what I always say is like worst case scenario, I can sell it. You know, I can get somebody else in there, and you are proof of that. So who did you sell it to, and how did you get out of that?
I was in it like $50,000. Yeah. Like
back then that seemed like a lot to me.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's still a lot to me now. I'm like, so I bought brand new equipment. Like I bought like booths and tables and pizza ovens and the whole thing.
And the pizza was bomb.
It was good.
It was like these big, yummy. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And I even did free pizza for these college students. They were just so ungrateful.
I know, rude. Like what was going on? I felt like there was something. It wasn't like COVID or anything that was going on. There was really nothing, huh? That was like.
No, it was. The college students are loyal to this, like
Jack
the
and
Star
Dan's.
and Jack and Dan's.
Yeah, they really are busy there.
And it was just like it was a bad location. I was on the back side of a building, and I thought, oh, I'm going to call it the Foxhole. It's so cute because it's like hidden away. And like, I thought all of my Drinkery regulars will come there, but it'll be like more like chill, like no fights, just chill.
No brains.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
So I had like board games out and we did karaoke. So it was just a more lighthearted. But it was a long drive for my regulars. The college students were poor. I thought like, oh, their families have money. They must have had a budget for food.
It's not Whitworth,
drinks.
okay? It's Gonzaga.
Well, they're really good with their money.
Yeah.
They have money, but the reason they have money is because they're good with their money and they're not going to go like spending. They weren't like my Drinkery regulars who would spend their paychecks on alcohol. They were like very conservative college students who were like, I'm here to do my work.
Yeah.
And so I was expecting like a little bit more income from that. I lost money on it every single month until like a year later, I put it up. I think I put it on Craigslist again, and the Revolver bought it, and I sold it to them. I think it was like a very small amount, like $10,000, and I was like, I just want out of this. I was like, the lease is crazy. Like I lost money like crazy on it, but I was doing okay. I was like. I had the owner finance things coming in. And
well, like me, if I lose money on something every month, I like hyperventilate and I want to sell it immediately. Yeah. Like most businesses lose money for what do they say? Like at least like a couple years, 3 years. And I'm like, say what? Yeah. No, not me. Yeah. Like if I lose money for like 6 months, I'm like, oh my God, I got to sell it. Oh my God, I got to sell it. It's like, what did I do? Yeah. Like, yeah, that's funny.
So I was like out of there. I'm like $10,000 by like, they got a steal of a deal, but they also inherited this like terrible,
Well, yeah, because it's revolved many times since the Revolver.
Actually from Revolver, it turned into Denaro's and they're still there.
What's
they're
Denaro's?
Really good. They're a pizza place in Gonzaga.
How annoying was that?
I know. It was fine. It was not the place for me. And, I actually, the gal, one of my really good friends who's managing the Drinkery now, she wrote this really sweet post the other day about how much the Drinkery means to so many people. And it really does. And I do feel like that space is really special and the people that go there are really special. And I go there like,
I was going to say, you still go there. I see it on your social media 2, sometimes.
3, 4 times a month. Because those are my friends. Those are like my bar friends. And I really am comfortable there and I love it. So when we closed the Foxhole or sold the Foxhole to Revolver, which I told them, I was like, this thing is not making any money. Like, this is why, the equipment in here alone is worth more than that, but I just need to get out. So they ended up taking it over, but not for very long. And hopefully they did well on it. They probably sold the equipment. I don't know, but
well, for $10,000, I'm sure something. How long were they in there?
Like a year. Yeah. So I did nothing for a year and I just kind of took time off and then I got really bored and I was like, I really liked serving tables at Davenport.
Yeah, I remember when you did that.
Well, I did that like before. That was when like before I was an entrepreneur, I did that and I was like, I'm going to go back to that. Like I feel like maybe I need a break from this and I'll go back to that. And so I went back to that and immediately I was like, my managers were telling me what to do and I thought, don't tell me what to do. So that lasted like a year and then I thought we should just go back to the Drinkery but make it like nice like something that because I'm always drawn to that space and
well wait a minute so you still had the Drinkery or you didn't?
No, we didn't. When we left the Drinkery we
just shut down.
took everything out of there
and somebody wanted to be a sandwich shop or something.
Somebody was going to do like a restaurant.
So you just shut it down. Other people wanted to take it over. They couldn't figure it out.
No, it's a weird space.
I even considered taking it over. I remember Mike has always been into that. Yeah, because I know this story because we've kept in touch, you know, and that is so funny. And then it was nothing until you took it back over.
Yeah, so it sat vacant for like 2 years.
Yeah,
and somebody would lease it. They'd go in there. They'd try to like do something with it, and then
make it a kitchen. Everybody kept trying to put a kitchen in there.
Yeah, that drives me crazy. And I kept telling everybody, you cannot put a kitchen in there. Yeah. So I think it was 3 people leased it. Yeah. And then the old man who owned it, he was like 90.
Mm-hmm.
He hated me because the Drinkery before
you were a nuisance.
Was rowdy.
Yeah.
He was getting calls all the time. I was just a pain in his ass.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decided I wanted to like reopen the Drinkery because it was like so special to me after leaving, I was like, I just want it back.
Yeah.
And I knew if I called him, he would hang up the phone on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be like sneaky about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my dad, I was like, Dad, I need your help.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad called him and was like, hey, I'm just an old man who wants to open just a little tiny bar. And the old man gave him a lease. And I was like, thanks, Dad. Swiped the lease and like reopened the Drinkery. And that poor old man like had a heart attack, not literally, but like he ended up selling the whole property. He was so mad that I did that because as soon as the Drinkery opened, like I got a phone call and I was like, oh, sorry, I'm not sorry. Like I got what I wanted.
Yep.
And so I didn't, I was very deceitful like in that one moment, but I didn't feel bad.
I know I've done that a couple times. I wanted
it. I was like, this is what I want to do. So he sold it, and my lease was still $600. This was in like, I don't know, 2018, 17.
I remember you worried that the new landlord was going to raise your rent to something crazy.
He did. He called me. He's like, I'm going to double your rent, and I was like,
which at the
go
it's
ahead.
really not
it was
that,
like $1,200. Like, big
Ooh.
whoop. Yeah. So. I think he even doubled it past that after or something.
God.
Because I probably had an attitude like, like, whatever.
I know my cocky attitude got me kicked out of downtown. I have to tell that story just really quick. So when I had the downtown stand, it was like, so I kind of did that little bit of a deceitful thing. Dave, the guy from Uccello's, he was like, don't tell him. He will never allow you to be in here. He's a Christian guy or whatever. That I was going to be a lingerie stand. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, so we kind of played it off. We didn't tell him whatever. And then I opened up as a lingerie stand. Well, there's always this clause in a lease that says something about like the landlord has some sort of discretion over your signage. And so he put up a stink about the signage. So that was a thing or whatever, but I still had a 5-year lease. I never did anything wrong and I paid it on time and whatever. And so by the end of or getting close to the end of my lease, I was like, hey, we're good, right? You're going to lease this to me, right? Mm-hmm. We're good. We're going to re-sign. And he's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And so I was like, phew, because it was kind of a big deal. Like he was getting calls from like the neighbors and stuff complaining, and he was a good Christian man from a good Christian family and all that kind of stuff. So he ended up dying like the 4th year into my 5-year lease, maybe 4.5. It was really, really close. And so we just kind of wrote it out and whatever. And we went to go re-sign the next lease. The kids had inherited the property and they were like, oh, well, we don't know if we want you here. We'd rather have you rebrand it, but you can stay here until, and like, if you're not willing to rebrand it, then we're going to, offer it up to somebody else. They actually, I found it because they listed it on the MLS for like double my rent, or maybe like $800 more, almost double my rent.
Lease, not for
just
sale.
For lease. Yeah. Like, so I was like, this isn't for lease. Like I lease this place, And so I called them, and basically I was kind of irritated because like, if you're going to have some sort of set of values that you're working by, like stick to those values. And so I kind of like, I didn't call them. Well, no, actually I did, to whoever represented them at the time. I think it was Barberi or whatever. I was like, well, that's kind of funny that they don't want me here because they're a good Christian family, but yet they'll take my money until they find an alternative.
Right.
And so I'm sure she didn't mention that to them because that would not have been in her favor or whatever, but they eventually caved, and I was like, okay, I can respect that. If they're going to actually like kick me out, like, it's the end of your lease, like, bye. Yeah. I can respect that. But if you're going to be like, I have these values, but I'm going to set those to the side for now while I take your money until I find something better. Like, I'm like, that's like so cheesy, Yeah. But yeah, I was actually like a little bit more accepting, I guess, because I was like, I tried to sell it, and then I was trying to sell it in a hurry. And then I sold it on contract to the wrong person, and then they kind of tanked it, and then didn't pay and whatever. And then I ended up selling it at discount to somebody else who did make something decent of it. But yeah, that's my story with that.
So so they kicked you out in a sense of like, they like went behind your back and posted it.
Yeah.
And then
trying to get something
But they were
better.
okay with you
Being there for now.
But also they were okay with you doing like an owner finance to somebody else who wasn't doing a bikini stand?
Yeah.
Okay. So did that end up working out?
No, that didn't. Yeah. I, in a hurry, tried to get rid of it and then ended up selling. There's not a lot of people that are willing to do the lingerie thing,
Yeah.
And so, and that's the only thing. And I tried to convince them. I was like, that's the only thing that's really going to work down here. And I was wrong. Something is working down there right now.
It is.
So
I was
wrong.
still Latte Da?
I think it's Latte Da, but it's not the original owner. It's somebody she sold to.
Okay.
And it's a rough spot because it's like the Catholic Charities right there. And so there's bums all over the place. So you really have to have like good security and keeping them out and that kind of stuff. So I was definitely wrong. I'm glad that I never made it a Blissful.
Yeah.
Because that was really, really difficult to deal with. That's like a high maintenance area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But they're making it.
Yeah. They're making it work. It's working for somebody, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think earlier you were talking about prices, like increasing your prices and how important that is. And that is one thing that I never did. And I didn't do that at the bar or the coffee shops. Yeah. And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have made so much more money. But like my whole business plan was to like be affordable for people. Yeah. Even drinking. I was like, if I'm working myself, I don't have a lot of costs. Like I wasn't about to charge downtown prices for like alcohol on Garland. I knew I couldn't do that, but I could have definitely charged more all these years. And like when whatever business I sold, whoever went in there raised prices immediately, and I was like, you can raise prices. I was always afraid
because you were working there as the owner. It's a completely different ballgame once you step out, because you're listening to, let's say you have 100 customers in a day and five to 10 of them complain about the prices, but they don't necessarily quit coming in, but you feel that and you carry that guilt, you're like, oh, am I doing the right thing? And am I whatever? And then you get out and you realize like, there's a lot of different aspects to that. There is a certain cost of good that you have to maintain. You can go ahead and ride 30% cost of good. That's okay. And that's tight. But, if you can do 27, that's a little bit better because you have some wiggle room, because you don't want to just skyrocket prices overnight. Like if something happens like the inflation that we've seen, but you
apparently you can now.
Apparently you can. Yeah. And so you don't have to be like crazy, like charging like astronomical. You could just be like fair, but it's so hard to get that feedback as you're the owner, as the customers, they see, like, say they know, what you're doing with your family. They know if you go on vacation, they know if you buy a new car, and you're worried, like, are they holding that against you? And some of them do. So it's like, that's hard.
There's the guilt there.
Yeah, totally.
Especially at the bar, which I guess like it's ultimately, the bar is such a trip for me because I love it so much. I loved working there. Like it was like a party time. It wasn't even work. It was like, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to see everybody I love, and they're going to like, it's like they walk in and they're like, Deb, and like, hey, and like I can wear what I want. I can be like who I am unapologetically. I don't have to like censor myself or filter anything. And it's just a very comfortable, like you can drink and just relax, where real estate is totally different. It's like, because it's a professional environment. So like, obviously I'm not going to go, bring vodka to my listing appointment and be like,
it's not like we're doing a podcast or anything. So yeah, let's talk about real estate. I'm so fascinated with that because I would love to get into real estate, but
so when I was at the bar, I thought I have to do something else. I have to. I'm having a lot of fun, but like, how long? I'm a mom, and I'm working till 2 a.m. and this is not sustainable. It made really good money. I knew it was very valuable because of the sales and the clientele I had built up. And everyone was like, you can't sell it because if you're not here, it won't do well. And I'm like, well, I wanted to believe that's true. I'm like, well, yeah, I am the reason it's successful.
I really thought that was true. I mean, that was one thing I said to Mike. I was like, man, I don't know. That's all Deb right there.
Yeah.
So
and you were like,
can you be Deb?
Yeah. And people even said, like, I'll buy it if you keep working. And I was like, no, this is my exit plan. So I'm not going to be, I mean, nothing against older women who bartend. It's just not the lifestyle that I wanted. And there's also only so much money you can make with these businesses. Like if you have a coffee shop, you're not making a ton of money. If you have 3 or 4 or 5, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
It's when you get to like 10 or 20 that you're starting to see something. And that's if you have all your systems like lined up.
Yeah. You need a lot.
And then, yeah, same with the bar. Like you're making good money. And
that's a big assumption too, that people are like, oh, you own, like, even if you had 5, you own 5 coffee stands, you must be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, like a really good one can net you like 100,000. And this is not like the Dutch Bros or like the wake up calls. Like they probably do double, sometimes triple, like what an average coffee stand does. Yeah. But like the mom and pop ones, you know, like if it's a really, really good one, you can net over $100,000 a year, you know? But that's like prime location. There's very few prime locations in Spokane. I happen to have a handful of, not even a handful of them, like 3 of them. But then like the regular ones, they're like 30, maybe 50. Yeah. You know, when it gets down to 20, I'm like, is this worth my resources? Because you can easily lose that 20 in a year.
Right.
But like, I mean, there's been some, every single year, I would say one of them, because I have such a big operation, one of them loses me money, you know, and it's usually one of the bikini stands.
Yeah.
But,
and you never know. And it's like in those businesses, even the bar, like if you buy a new house or go on vacation, then people are judging you. I feel like it's different with real estate. And so I'm really, really happy that I found it. And I kind of, what I did is like when I started getting irritated with the bar, like lifestyle, I started exploring like what options I have, because I'm not going to go back to college at my age. I didn't want to. I know that I could have like found something, but I thought like, what do I love doing and what goes along with the experience that I have? And I noticed like bartenders, when they like age out, they either go to like being a rep for like a liquor company or they go to real estate. And so many bartenders move into real estate.
I didn't know that.
And I just saw this like trend. I was like, it must be something that they're like, that they know that I don't. And so there was a couple real estate agents that would come into the bar, and I was like, hey, I want to do real estate. And a couple of them were like, yeah, do it. That's really awesome. And a couple other ones told me like, you don't want to do that. It's really difficult. Like it's going to take up all of your time. And I thought, well, that's all the things I'm used to. And I'm glad I didn't listen to them. So I took my real estate course. It took me over a year to complete. It took me a really long time. It should have taken me like 3 months, but I was a mom and working at the bar. And so I took my time with it. And as soon as I finished it, I failed the test the first time, which I knew I would, because I was like, just had anxiety about it. But then the second time I passed, and immediately like started with this brokerage who's a discount brokerage. And the discount brokerage gave me a lot of business, because they're all volume based. And I've really got a lot of like knowledge from them. And then I switched over to another brokerage where I had a lot of friends, where it was all the guys who came into the bar, and I felt really comfortable, because somebody approached me and they were like, if you work for a discount brokerage, you're going to be a discount broker for your entire career. And I was like, I'm trying to move up in life. Like I'm trying to like, you know, elevate and like go to some career that doesn't have that ceiling. Like going back to the coffee shops where you can only make so much selling coffee. You can only make so much selling alcohol. Yeah. But with real estate, oh my gosh, there's no ceiling. Yeah. It's like the sky is the limit. Yeah. And this is, I mean, you hear people say that, but you're like, how? And I didn't know how, but I knew I figured out. So as soon as I started with this other brokerage, I like started really digging in and asking questions. The brokers who were like doing a lot of business, like how do I get more business? It's really hard to get business in real estate, but I knew if I could just figure that tiny little piece out that I could be as successful as somebody else. So I was at my office and I was talking to the brokers. I was like, will somebody please help me? Like, I just want to be successful. Like somebody.
Just mentor me.
Yeah. And so a couple agents were like, well, we'll mentor you. Like, we'll help you. And so that was my turning point. And that was 1 year ago, actually, like almost to the day.
And how long have you been in real estate exactly?
I'm in my 3rd year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the first 2 years I was at the bar, I'm just like doing both.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know. So.
And let me mention that you get exactly what you ask for your businesses. You list them for what you want.
Yeah.
And you get exactly that.
Well, because I'm willing to hold out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll just wait because somebody will want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I ended up selling the bar during the pandemic. It was closed down, and I had it listed before the pandemic. And they're doing really well now. Like, they do just fine without me.
Yeah.
Although I'm like, am I like, I go in there to, you know, everybody is like, oh, Deb, we love seeing you. So I get my little, I call it my Drinkery fix.
Yeah. I love seeing you on social media in there. I'm like, yay, she still goes in.
So with real estate,
who mentored you? And they were just being nice?
So I joined a team with the brokerage I was at, and the team, they were kind of like a new team, like just started thinking about like, hey, we want to build a team. So I was like their third person, and they've been in the business for a while, and they just kind of shared their knowledge and shared their business really, and it brought me to a point where I was like, okay, once I got all the little pieces together and I knew exactly what I was doing, it just takes time. Like with real estate, you have to learn all the contracts, you have to learn how to negotiate, how to talk to clients, what works and what doesn't, and it's trial and error. So it's going and talking to people and watching their reaction. Like when I tell them like, I don't know about the market, you know, it's kind of up and down.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're unsure.
Oh my
and
God.
like, don't say that again. You know, whatever it is. So as soon as I figured out like my little like script, I guess, like of like how to talk to people in real estate to make them feel comfortable and to get them a result that they're happy with at the end of the day, I felt initially I felt overwhelmed by real estate. And then once I figured it out and I got the ball rolling, I felt more comfortable. And at first I was like, I need help with real estate. And then at the point where I felt like I didn't need help anymore, I broke away from that group because like with real estate, your splits and your percentages that you get for commission change with each brokerage. So if you need a lot of help, like in the beginning, then you're going to go with a brokerage who's offering like a lot of support, like I had. Then there's brokerages who have like a better commission split, and they offer less help. So just it happened naturally as I gained more knowledge, I was like, okay, I can handle things on my own. And now I'm at a point where I'm going to build my own team because now I'm busier than I can handle.
Yeah.
Like it's overwhelming the amount of business that I have right now. And I'm like, how do I, now I'm having the growing pains in real estate where I'm like, how do I leverage the business that I have and like the knowledge I've gained and like build that into a team. So,
well, how much do you think that owning the coffee stand and networking there and then owning the bar and networking there kind of helped you build your client base?
It was huge.
Yeah.
And actually, again, like when somebody calls me for real estate, I'm like, oh my God, thank you for calling me. Like, you know, I do real estate. Like I've had probably 50% of my business has been my customers at either the coffee shop or the bar. And that's been really, really cool. Yeah. Because it's kind of like we're all growing up
together.
Together. Like, you know, they were coming in and getting beers and they were like sad and single and now they're like crying with somebody buying a house and their life is a lot better. So I feel like I've kind of like gone through this whole transition with people. Like I've been with people at their lowest at the bar and like had nights there where it's just been like quiet and slow. And like, I've cried with people about my own personal issues and I've listened to their issues and then just built that relationship with people and it's translated really well. It's transitioned really well into real estate.
You're really selling me on this real estate thing now.
It's really fulfilling, actually. Like when you can help somebody, you know, if they want to sell a house or buy a house and you can help somebody, it's such a good feeling. But then on top of that, like I would like to build a team of people who I can like, I wanted to be really good at real estate from day one and could not find anybody who would like lay out a clear like roadmap. And I think it's just the competition thing. Like, if you're a successful realtor, like, you're not going to give all of your secrets away, but why not?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, there's really no secrets. Like I say this in coffee all the time when people are trying to be competitive. It's like, what secrets really are there? You're just kind of, holding somebody back for some amount of time until they catch up, and then
they figure it out.
And then they're pissed off, and then they truly are your competition.
Right.
Instead of just being their friend and helping them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's such a beautiful ending to the story.
And now I love real estate.
I know. And now I'm going to be in real estate, I think.
You should.
And then I'll be on your team.
You should.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's really hard.
I think it's a good progression. It's a good, second, next step.
Next step. Yeah.
Because with real estate, there's so many different avenues. Like, there's investing, we've done flips now. Just so many different things you can do.
And your income is probably at least doubled or tripled or something being in real estate, because you told me the other day what you were supposed to be making this year, and I was like, whoa, that was fast.
So much more than I could have imagined doing the bar or the coffee shops. And that's what's exciting to me, is my work and my experience is now paying off, what I would hope it would have, which I felt kind of stuck at the bar as far as income goes. Where with real estate, it's I can flip a house, or I can, if I'm not as busy as I want to be, I can go pick up a house and flip it, or so I love that the possibilities are unlimited. I can just keep going and going.
Yeah. So what would you say then to anybody who is wanting to open up any kind of a business right now? Because I am now talking to a handful of people that, let me see, there's one kid that wants passive income, but he thinks he wants to open up a coffee stand. And I'm like, that's not anything near passive, dude. If you want to give me your money and invest in me, I'll make you passive income. But if you want to own your own, that's not passive. Or, somebody who just wants to get in the game and doesn't know if, say, they want to build new or they want to acquire, which acquisitions right now are just impossible. It's not like back when we kind of had anything that really we could have just rolled up to any stand and been like, hey, sell me your stand because I know that you're suffering, you know, or just anybody trying to kind of step into business. Right now I keep thinking of coffee stands because that's what everybody wants to get into, but really getting into anything. What would you say to them?
Figuring out what you're naturally good at. Because anytime I've tried to step outside of what I'm my comfort zone, or what I'm naturally good at, is when I've failed. And so finding my strengths, or being honest with myself about my strengths, what are they and how can I best use them? And knowing when to leave, if you've made a bad decision and you need to get out of it, have the knowledge to, or be honest with yourself to tell yourself oh, this was a mistake. I think that's the hardest part. So finding a business, everyone wants to own a coffee shop. It's very glamorous, I feel like. And real estate too is a very glamorous sort of thing. But I think being honest about what your strengths are and then going there. So with real estate, it's a lot of it is sales to an extent. And I thought that I wasn't very good at sales. And so I had to build my business around how to be most comfortable with that sales aspect. If you're really uncomfortable with being talking to people or selling or anything like that, you can still do real estate. Just do it investments or rentals or things like that, flipping. With the coffee shop, Bill and I, he was always the guy that did the ordering and the books, and so he could be successful owning a coffee shop doing that aspect, where I was on the front lines, dealing with the customers. So we worked with our strengths, and then we just I try to work on my weaknesses, but I think just figuring out what your strengths are and then finding a business that fits within that, instead of trying to force something oh, owning a coffee shop would be fun, but like,
like you still have a 9 to 5, but you don't necessarily want to be the face of the company for right now. Cause you definitely, if you're starting a coffee shop, you want to be.
Yeah. So working with that instead of against it, I mean, find a business that works for you. And if there isn't one, I guess make one.
I know. And I always struggle with this too, because I'm like, is giving somebody advice that correlates with the way I did something a smart thing? Because is the way I did something very smart? But I would always just say, and I have heard this a couple of times, but just get started.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I really do believe that, even though getting started sometimes means that you do it all backward. But if you don't just get started, if you sit there and like ponder over it for years and years, I've seen that a million times over. I'm like, that's just the end of the road.
Yeah.
You know, just do it. Just do something. Make a phone call, ask for help, do something, right?
Yeah. Nike nailed it.
Just do it.
Just do it. If you want to do something, just do it. What are you waiting for?
Duh. Because
you're never going to feel ready. You're never going to feel like you have enough money or enough time. So
it's just like having a baby.
Yeah.
You're never ready.
No, I'm still not ready. My oldest is like 14.
My youngest is like 2. And I'm like, what the heck?
It's never easy.
I'm never ready.
Yeah.
Well, we should take a shot for the end of our podcast.
Yes. Is that the end? Did I make it? I feel so...
Dude, I think that was a perfect ending.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an awesome story, Deb. I could listen to that like a million times over. I want a half one this time.
I'll make a
for
half
real.
one for me too.
Your last half one was like 3/4 of
I gave
one.
You a whole one. Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Yes,
thank you for coming. I'm sure I like rambled and looked uncomfortable, but
I had a lot of fun.
I did something that I was nervous about and scared, and like the whole time I was like, sit up straight, and I feel like I did this the whole time. But
okay, yeah. So let's add this little tidbit too. Okay. Every single time I do a podcast, I am nervous and scared, but I do it freaking anyways. And I look stupid. I watch myself and I'm like, I'm annoying. I'm dumb. Ew. I say and and all the time. Like I completely critique myself, but I keep showing up.
But you did it.
And I did
it.
Just do it.
Just do it. I just did it. Yay, cheers.
And I took that one a lot better.
Because you already had one.
Bye, Deb.
Bye, Sarah.
Let's do it again.
Okay.